My name is Vasco, and I've been asked to give you a male perspective on natural fertility awareness and the related methods. Husbands and husbands-to-be. I bet when your partner said, "Honey, we have to go to this talk about NFP," well, I can almost hear the groans that occurred. So I assume some of you guys will be here because your wife has told you to be, and the rest of you are here because your wife told you to be. Funnily enough, my wife, she's also asked me to be here and to do this. So the good news is that we're all in the same boat. I do hope, however, that by the end of this, I will have at least provided you with a more positive perspective and some practical insights into NFP, and uncovered the mystique and some of the myths about it. Now, it's important to say, guys, that this is my story from the outset, and it's going to be different to yours, to who you are and why you're here. But I think you will find some common threads. So to start off, I think it's important and fair that I tell you a little bit about myself. I've been happily married for almost 13 years. My wife and I have 5 children, 11, 9, 8, 4 and 3 years old. I am Catholic and I'm 39 years old. Now, if I stood here and gave you the perception that A, NFP is easy, and B, I've never used any contraceptive method, I personally think my story would be less convincing to you. Don't get me wrong, there are many people that have only ever used NFP, and that's great for them. But this event is targeted at a broad spectrum of people. For those wanting to learn more, those wanting to change their family planning method, those concerned about the health aspects of their body, it's for everyone. NFP will, though, require your commitment, your involvement and your respect. I guarantee one of the unexpected benefits of this process is you becoming a better man. And so it's important that you know this. I've used contraception. My wife has used contraception. So I've been on both sides of this equation. So one thing you won't be able to do when you leave here today is say, yeah, but this guy's a churchy. Yeah, he's never known anything different. Yeah, but actually, no. I've been there and I can appreciate both sides. So a few questions which may be hovering around your head, and I want to clear them up right now. I am a fully functional male, and I love sex just as much as the next guy, and there's nothing wrong with me. NFP is not just for Catholics. NFP is a healthier option, and there's no doubt about that. It's drug-free. You don't miss out on sex, but husbands and husbands-to-be, it's crucial you understand this. You do play a role in your marriage, and you will need to develop a virtue called temperance. So in a nutshell, NFP, Creighton, Billings, or the symptothermal method relies on the natural cycle of a woman, and via different techniques, unique to each method, identifies when a woman ovulates and is therefore fertile. Once the cycle is identified, your sexual life therefore revolves around this cycle and its different stages. Period, fertile and non-fertile stages. So let's get into this. I want to touch on 4 things. I want to touch on faith, society, health and joy. Faith. Much of my personal story revolves around my growth or regrowth into the Catholic faith. Some, most, or none of you here may be Catholic or Christian of another denomination. But what I have to say will still resonate with you. Many years ago, my wife and I, we went to the mandatory Catholic pre-marriage preparation course, and it was the final session on the Sunday afternoon where we were introduced to natural family planning. Now, I was on the beginning of my journey back into the Catholic faith, and I knew of NFP, and I knew it was the right thing, but it was in the back seat, and I didn't want to seem like the churchy with my wife, and to be honest, it was a little awkward. But in my mind, it was actually revolutionary. I thought, wow, the church talks about sex. And I was taken by the science, I was taken by the simplicity of it all, and I was taken by the church's acceptance. Taken by the fact that it can be used to postpone, space, achieve a pregnancy. But as men, as you know, we've been conditioned to stay out of girls' business, or what we think is girls' business. And we sheepishly avoid the topic of the female reproductive system. Why, guys? My wife and I did speak briefly about this, and the idea got shelved for another day. But every time I saw that NFP folder in our wardrobe, I would bring it up with her. The second matter I want to talk about is society. Growing up, there was an inattention between the secular society I was living in and my deep-rooted desire to live in accordance with God's will and the Church's teaching on spousal relations. From what I see, this hasn't changed much today, and it's probably an even more complex society in which we live. This led me to explore many questions. What is sex? What is it for? What does contraception do? Is it just a physical barrier? Can it ever be more than just a physical barrier? And not surprisingly, I had a few important revelations. These will challenge each of you, but the first will be obvious. Are you ready? Sex makes babies. Yep. And therefore sex has a responsibility attached to it. We should never have an expectation that our wives are always sexually available. Never. And your wife is not an outlet for stress or a fun playland at your disposal. If you're a red-blooded male like me, you find the female form and the female traits with that we typically associate with women both beautiful and attractive. Now hit pause. Right now you're sitting here and you're thinking, what on earth does this have to do with NFP? The simple answer is lots. How you and I look at our wives, and women in general, will translate to how we look and treat our wives. Now if you've lived in a remote village all your life, with no TV, no radio, no billboards or magazines, you're safe. But the harsh reality is that most of us do not live in a remote village, and we are bombarded with sexual material all the time. So this was step one for me, being conscious of what I see and what I expose myself to. As a Catholic, I would say what I expose my soul to. So we must honour our wife the way she deserves to be honoured. Show her the dignity she deserves. She is, after all, a person, a human being, a daughter of God. She is a daughter and has a mother, a father, and maybe even siblings. Respect your wife and her body. How you treat her reflects how you think about her. Are you a gentleman? Be aware of how you treat your wife in the kitchen, sitting on the lounge with her, and how you approach your intimate moments. Health is the third matter. The use of the contraceptive pill is known to have some side effects which vary across women. I'm going to let you in on one that you'll be very interested in, I'm sure. In some women, the pill depresses their libido. Now some of you may say, no, our sex life is just fine. But I say to you, how would you know? If it's all you've ever known. Now that wasn't a factor when my wife got off the pill, but it certainly was an unexpected benefit. Again, it's not all women, but if you ask me, there's no downside in that regard in terms of getting off the pill. I suggest you talk to your wife. Show her that you are interested in how she's feeling, why she takes the pill. If she's using a contraceptive method at the moment, ask her why that one. What are the side effects? How does it affect you, now and in the future? What does it mean for her future fertility? We have to deepen our relationship to understand our wife. Her fertility is such a big part of her daily life. Now I hope in talking about this, none of you perceive or get the impression that I think women are just wombs. That's not what I'm saying. But your wife is your life partner. And you love her more than anyone, and you want to know and understand her more than anyone anything. The fact that you guys are here tells me you already know this, but do your wives know it? The final matter is joy. Now, related to this point is the spousal relationship and our overall marital satisfaction. And I'm not just talking about sex now. I mean your marriage. Do you wake up in the morning and think, Groundhog Day? Or are you genuinely happy? You see, one of the most difficult benefits of NFP to communicate to others is how it changes your relationship for the better. You deepen intimacy with your wife because you find other ways to express your love other than sex. You hold hands. You make small acts of affection. You might cook together if that's your thing. You talk, you share acts in service for one another, like making a cup of coffee. And you don't take each other for granted. The virtue of chastity is not just before marriage, but chastity is also needed in a marriage. Guys, if you go down the NFP path, if you're not already, and all you have to do is start, there will be periods of abstinence. But don't underestimate your self-control. Ultimately, we are men. We are not animals. And using NFP means that I, as a husband, appreciate how my wife's body functions, and she no longer needs to suppress her fertility in order to conform to my desires. But I now conform my sexual desires out of reverence for how my wife has been created by God. I'd love to take credit for that quote, but that's Jason Everett. It's one of my favourite quotes. Abstinence is a normal part of married life anyway. Your wife is at times sick. At other times, she's tired. And maybe often she's sick and tired of you and all the kids. So NFP requiring a period of abstinence shouldn't be something out of this world. So I do thank you for listening to me. I'm going to leave you with a few tasks. When you get home, I want you to talk about your current method. Number 2, I want you to work out your and your wife's motivation for considering NFP. Number 3, I want you to read a lot and research a lot, and I want you to pray a lot. And number 4, you have to be patient. Thank you very much for coming today, for listening, and if you have any questions, please come and see me. There isn't much that I haven't heard or been asked. Thanks again.